All right, test. I think we're on and we're live. Yeah, thanks everybody for joining. I am going to talk about AI gateway patterns on this month's office hour. So hopefully everybody can see my screen, you can hear my audio. Not too familiar with GoTo here, but I think it's working. All right, so here's the introduction, just to set a little bit of context. So customers are developing their own private AIs, right? They're doing that using open source tools. They're using commercial solutions. Some of them come from Broadcom, some of them come from other vendors. There's a lot of activity, and there's been a lot of experimentation in the last few years. But enterprises are now at a stage where they need to get past the experimentation, and they actually need to deploy these services. And these are new enterprise services that need governance, they need security, they need privacy and cost control, and I highlight those in particular because those are concerns that are especially applicable to something like a large language model, a Gen AI, a private Gen AI type thing, right? So the cost control, but if you query too much, it really uses a lot of power, it uses a lot of processing. The security aspect, the privacy in particular, right? You don't want to leak data. You want to control who can access, who can influence your private AI. But these are just new enterprise services, and for layer 7 user, you can provide this governance with layer 7, right? Applying either the same rules as the existing infrastructure team is using for other enterprise services, right? We have customers where there's a team that's running the layer 7 services, and a whole bunch of internal applications are going through this, and some rules are shared between these different applications, and so you could do that for those new enterprise services, those private AI enterprise services, or you could have that dedicated in a separate deployment if you want. So those patterns is what I'm going to talk about. It's really an extension of using the gateway for a new type of service. So I'm going to demo 5 different patterns using the gateway. So so the first one is just being in between a Gen AI prompt and a Gen AI API. So being the reverse proxy between those. So very basic pattern. The second pattern is going to be query cost-based rules, reporting, and billing. I'm going to show prompt level interjects, prompt jailbreak safeguards from a security perspective, and we're going to look at how does it work with streaming and the streaming experience, and how does that work when you're using the API layer, and how does that work with layer 7. And then we're going to talk about other non-Gen AI specific patterns. And I think that should be quick enough to allow for a bunch of time for discussion. I'm really hoping that some of you have use cases you're running into that you can share with us, maybe some ideas or some feedback on these patterns I'm going to show you. All right. Okay. Everything looks good. I'm going to keep going here. So let's start by explaining what I have running here. So on my local machine, I've got Olama running my laptop here. Let me just get out of presentation mode. And I've got in the middle screen here, you can see this little web app. This is actually something that's connected to my gateway, and it's presenting a little JavaScript prompt that I can use just like you would with a Gen AI prompt. And layer 7 basically is in the middle, and it proxies those messages back and forth. So yeah, so I've got Remco here. So this is currently going through layer 7 gateway. Who are you? Volkswagen agent. Okay, let me make sure my rules are turned on for my service here in layer 7. I'm going to turn all the rules on. Okay, so Remco comes in, right? I'm just gonna ask a few questions. Which pedal makes the car move forward? Where is the brake pedal? How do I drive standard? Let me just keep asking questions like this, just to illustrate my first point here. Okay, so layer 7 is in the middle. So the first pattern I want to show you is query cost-based policy. So on the right side here, I'm just gonna hit an endpoint again, refresh it. You can see that Remco's use 973 tokens. And basically the layer 7 gateway is doing this accounting for you. We're tracking, just like we are in other use cases, you know, things that are relevant about that transaction, right? So you could have this going out at each transactions via open telemetry, you could feed a queue or something like that. But in transit, layer 7 is capturing the fact that, yeah, Remco at this time, you know, used via this application, targeted a specific model. These are the Gen AI points that were reported back from our private AI engine, so we can do some accounting based on that. And not all queries are the same, right? So, you know, if let's say somebody else comes in, let's have been Florian, and then maybe Florian is asking a question like, hey, which cigarette brand is the most popular? But somebody else like Darko comes in and asks something that is using a lot more tokens. You'll see right away, you know, how not every request is the same, right? So you can use that information. And by the way, the gateway is doing a lot of correlating information, right? So we're capturing information about the identity layer. We're capturing information about, you know, what came in the request, what went in the response, and how it costs and everything like that. So we're enriching that stuff, right? But you can see Darko 600 points just for that one request. So yeah, you can use that, and you can have rules based on these, right? So you can have quotas that instead of counting individual API calls, we're counting points, and then we can do some enforcement based on that. You could use this to create reports for billing. Let's say, you know, we do have customers are looking at internal chargeback type situations. You know, if the customer feels that the AI is going to be really costly thing in terms of the power consumption, in terms of compute consumption, then being able to really see where that money is being spent is we're thinking is going to be very helpful. All right, so let's move forward to the next pattern. User-friendly prompt level interjects. So this is where, you know, let's say something goes wrong, instead of having an error or having your application require you to, you know, instrument these right into the application. You can have the layer 7 gateway basically, yeah, just like it happened here, right? So your application has exceeded its AI token. So basically, a rule was triggered in layer 7 because a lot of calls were made against a specific application. And you can see that is being weaved right into the prompt itself, because layer 7 is in between, right? You can even go as far as I'm going to actually kill my Gen AI. Maybe my Gen AI, my private AI is going down for maintenance, and it actually looks like there is an update. So, you know, in a normal situation, your whole application would be broken here, right? But with layer 7 in the middle, you can say, hey, oh, well, let's try a different application. You say, hey, you know, my Gen AI is currently unavailable for maintenance. Try again later, right? This is not necessarily the kind of stuff that belongs in the private AI, and the teams that are developing the private AI are different teams that are running and operating this. So the run and operate side using Layer7 can, yeah, interject right into the prompt messages like that. Let me just restart my Llama, and hopefully I don't get too much delay. It looks like there was maybe an update. Oh, maybe we're already back on. All right, let's look at the next pattern. I think we're back on. Move this out of the way. Okay, the next pattern, so user-friendly prompt level interjects, what we just did, input validation and prompt guardrails. Okay, let's say that you know, you've got a hacker or somebody that wants to misuse your service. As you know, like very often these hackers are going to go at the API layer and override things and do like that, right? So I could try to come here. Let's use another user. Let's say Aaron is coming in and saying, I'm going to jailbreak this application. And I'm going to ask, what is a more cost-effective alternative to the Gulf GTI? Right, so you want your private AI to behave in a certain way, and you're expecting your users to use it in a certain way. But without Layer7, you know, and without the rule in place, we could just turn off that rule momentarily here, just for a second, and then go back. Let's ask the same question again. So without those types of guardrails, you basically enable people to go outside of the way that you mean the application to use the AI, right? All of a sudden now you're talking about, you know, the WRX and you know, your user is jailbreaking your prompt and is using it to do things that it shouldn't be allowed to do. So yeah, there's a lot of rules where we can basically at the Layer7, as you can imagine, by inspecting the incoming request, we can apply some things to these patterns and make sure that the AI is used in the right way. Okay, the last thing, the last pattern before we go back to the presentation is streaming versus buffering. And so, you know that, you know, if I run, for example, a DeepSeek locally in a command line prompt. So I'm going to switch to a command line prompt here. This is where you see, instead of like a request response and you know, when I showed you that little Volkswagen inspired you know, chatbot, you know, it takes a few seconds sometimes for the response to come back, and during this time you're just waiting. But you can also have a Gen AI experience where it's more streaming. Right? Let me just get something that's going to generate a lot of stream here. So if as soon as I hit enter here, you're going to see some feedback coming back, right? And as a matter of fact, DeepSeek does this thing where it's thinking out loud, right? So you're not waiting for the response to come through. It's very much streaming and interactive. So how does that work with Layer7? Right, you're using the API layer. So how does that work? Just stop this and get out of this problem. So yeah, you actually can do this with Layer7. Basically, first let's call direct to my Llama. So curl is actually a good way to see the streaming come back. So in this case, I'm going to go straight to my Llama. I'm skipping Layer7. I'm going for DeepSeek-R1. So what does that look like? So you can see these partial pieces of response coming back as individual JSON messages, right? So that's how it looks direct. Let's just do, well, this is the same thing, but via layer 7. Okay, have this. Here, let me just change it here. I think the rest should be the same. Maybe I need a dash K here. Yeah, so the same thing happens, right? You've got these messages coming back via layer 7. There are limitations, unfortunately, when you do that. If you look at the policy where I have this configure, message streaming enable my response. If I try to do validations on the response, when you do that in layer 7 policy, you don't have access to the full response just because it's in transit. You know, we're passing the stream back to the client side. So that, you know, limits my ability to do some accounting like I was doing coming back in the response. It's just a different way of using DPI, but it is possible with layer 7. All right. So, you know, I talked about some GenAI specific use cases, right? But there's things that are not GenAI specific, but very GenAI relevant. And just like other applications, a customer's GenAI would need to connect their identity service, right? So layer 7 is a great way to do that. You have a trust relationship between the gateway and your private AI, and, you know, whatever. Is it Auth0? Is it, you know, a customer's, you know, pre-existing identity service that has existing attributes and all the users are already defined, and there's an OAuth service that you can connect to it and have this using at the API layer, right? So we can issue validated tokens, we can do failover, high availability. So, you know, an AI goes down, like I was showing you, we can, you know, respond with a special answer, but we could also, you know, redirect you to another one. Telemetry net analytics, we could show some nice reports. We can apply authorization rules, and it's not just the gateway, right? The portal, I think, also has a lot of potential to play here for a customer that is developing a private AI and wants to put it out there for their internal departments to start using. So a developer portal makes it easier to do that. You can see how the API works. You can subscribe your application, and it would make that all easier. So yeah, I'm going to stop there, 8:20. Okay, that was fast. Yeah, so the way that we see it is the value proposition of putting layer 7 in front of a private AI or Gen AI to foster innovation, you know, get to the next stage in your customer's private AI, making it easier to adopt, you know, leverage those investments, control the spending on AI services, cybersecurity for the private AI, controlling access to the private AI, the analytics, and that's what the value proposition. So Justin, maybe you could unmute people now, or if there are questions in the chat, maybe we can look at that. I don't see anything.
Hi, Francois. It's Vince.
Hey, Vince.
Hi.
How's it going?
How you doing? Yeah, good. So I guess you could do this, you know, really not just in private AI, but you know, in the public side as well. So you can restrict maybe what questions can be asked, and those sort of that sort of governance, I guess. So you could almost like nanny state it a little bit.
Yeah,
does that sound like that's something you could do?
Yeah, you could also apply rules for your use of an external AI service. I agree.
Yeah.
I think that the reason I focus on the private AI is that when you're subscribing to a public AI, in exchange for the dollars that you're paying, somebody is hosting and running and operating that private AI for you. Whereas when it's your private AI, right, that's on you. So, and that's why we expect that you would need a lot of governance around that.
I'm thinking a bit about governance on,
Yeah.
let's say if I'm a company and I'm, using some AI, but I must not obviously divulge customer names or anything like that to an external resource. So there, I could sort of almost firewall it, or whitelist or blacklist stuff.
Correct. And the other use case here, Vince, when you're using public AI is that you can broker, that subscription with the private AI, right? So you can authenticate your enterprise user locally and then redirect them to the private AI API, the public AI API using that credential, and then you can see which of your employees are using that service that you pay a lot of money for. So yeah, a lot of the things are the same and also applicable for sure. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks for your question.
We have no other questions in the tool. Folks, if you would like to post a question through the GoToWebinar control panel or take yourself off mute, you are welcome to do so.
Anybody seeing those types of projects starting to emerge at your maybe respective customers or anything like that? Please, if you do, speak up. We'd love to hear the story that you have. All right. Is this going to be the shortest office hour in history?
Can I ask one question a little bit off topic?
Yeah.
Have you got any info on the next generation policy manager at all that you could update us with?
Well, it's going well. And so for those of you who don't have the background, Vince is talking about a project that we have this year where we're developing a next generation alternative to our policy manager. It's a web application that's built on the gateway. And yeah, the team is running with it. We're making great progress. I'm not sure if we are ready to demo it quite yet. And maybe Aaron, I don't know if there's anything you want to say about this, but I think that, yeah, you should expect at some point this year to see it in action, I would say.
Yeah, I think we're not quite ready to, you can hear me right, Francois?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we're quite ready to demo, but office hours will definitely be one of the places where we'll share what we're doing. Yeah, the start of the project has gone very well. As you can imagine, there's a lot of architectural decisions to start with, and I think we've made a lot of good progress, and now there's going to be a part of the project where we have to tick off things, right? There's a load of entities that we need to manage. There's a lot of assertions that need to be supported. So we're kind of in that phase. But I would expect in the next few weeks, maybe towards the end of March, we'll be ready to show something. And it won't just be showing, we want feedback as well, right? We don't want to dramatically change the policy authoring, policy manager experience other than making it better. So yeah, we'll definitely be reaching out to people and sharing as early as we can, and we've got plans for them putting out hopefully an experimental version maybe midway through 2025, so people can start playing with it before it's obviously complete. But yeah, it's going well, Vince. We don't have anything anything exciting to show? Well, we have some things that have got us excited, but nothing we can really show externally right now. But yes, stay tuned, and we'll definitely be reaching out to people and wanting to make a big splash with it.
Well, you can throw it at us, and we'll try and break it and give you feedback if you need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm good at breaking stuff.
Cool.
Great.
Cool. Thank you.
Hi, Aaron. This is Remco here. I've got a question about that also. Will that new policy manager will support modern authentication like OAuth or something?
We've got a number of things in mind. To start with, we want to make sure we've got the functionality that we have in the original policy manager that we're all used to, and then things on top of that are, a little bit further down the list of things we want to do. But yeah, absolutely, it should be able to support different mechanisms going forward. Yeah, it's a web app, so it's a lot easier to make those kinds of improvements and over our Java app. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
And we will definitely do an office hours on Policy Manager too when we're kind of ready to share that and get your feedback.
Oh, is that its name? Policy Manager 2?
Well, it's
You're getting creative.
code name, but yeah. I mean, to be honest, it will just be Policy Manager, but yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I get you. I'm just joking.
Yeah.
So guys, I missed in the very first 2 minutes, and so I didn't see with what you were demoing. Are there assertions or solution kit or anything that's added to the gateway, or is this just simply a use case using existing policy assertions?
Yeah, you're correct. It's just using existing policy assertions. It's not a new product or new assertions. Yeah, it's just applying the existing capabilities to a Gen AI API and what you can do with it.
Okay.
And part of us wanting to show that is, we've started to see customers doing these sort of patterns, and Francois has been working with them. And part of it is there's a lot of noise, I would say, from other people in this space saying that you need an AI gateway and it has to, it's a new product, etc. And our gateway does this already. Will we need to make any changes or tweaks to the solution to support more and more AI use cases over the next few months and years? Yeah, maybe. But right now, if you've got an AI project going on, you don't need a different gateway. You just need a different set of rules. And yeah, we're thinking about how we can maybe share some example rules, maybe putting some of the things on GitHub and sharing some sample policies. But yeah, you don't need anything new.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for the question. We do have an internal repo that we're going to, improve the formatting of, so we can share these, connectors. Right now we're working against Llama and different rules that we're using to illustrate and how you can piggyback on the API format of these private AI open source tools and do some really cool stuff with. And then to Aaron's point, yeah, I agree. Like if you think about what is AI gateway, I have a backup slide here. Really, it is industry coined terminology, right? Kong is talking about AI gateway, F5. Everybody has their AI gateway, right? The AI gateway for IBM API Connect, it's just the API Connect gateway. If you think about in 2005, we're talking about XML gateway. 10 years later, we're talking about API gateway. Now we're talking about AI gateway. It's just a great pattern that makes a lot of sense, but you don't necessarily need to, reinvent the product for that. And it makes a lot of sense, especially where people have an established set of infrastructure, for example, Layer7, to just, instead of reinventing the wheel, continue using your existing patterns. Yeah.
Maybe for marketing purposes, you could have an AI solution kit, which is just some example stuff, which is a framework or something like that behind the gateway for marketing purposes.
Yeah, for sure. the marketing side of it, we're Broadcom, so maybe I'm not sure. But the important point here is we don't want to miss our customers' opportunity in connecting those dots, right? Because we know that those private AI projects are going to be running in different teams than the Layer 7 one. So we want to make sure people take advantage of the things they can do with it.
Yeah, okay.
Francois, we have a couple questions that came in through the webinar panel.
Oh, yeah.
First question is from Joseph Fry. Any effort into actually training AI to create policy?
Yeah, we did play around with that. I would say, in my initial experimentation, AI is Gen AI. Like especially if you're using a generic one, is great at faking it. You're asking specifically about training it. No, don't worry, Joe. You're not gonna run out of work. We're gonna need humans to write Layer 7 policy. Yeah, I think that maybe there's something that it can help with, but hopefully the other initiatives that we have to make writing policy easier, have a more important role to play. And you think about how we make it easy for customers to like organize their template and really boiling it down for their internal users. Hopefully that's the way forward. But maybe we'll see. And Justin, I can actually see the questions now on my side. So I know it's another question. Would be an interesting portal integration. Yeah, totally. Agree. I think that I'm not sure if you're talking about the policy creation or just general AI gateway, but if you mean just general AI gateway, yeah, I think it would make sense to have your Gen AI APIs in a portal. And yeah, having these templates that are created specifically for those. But yeah, if I'm responsible for the security of my API, I would definitely be a little bit nervous about putting an AI in charge of writing my policy. Maybe it helps me get started. That's how I use it. And I think you guys can unmute yourself too if you want to talk. So hopefully that answers your questions. All right, anybody else?
So this is
Yeah.
Joe again.
Yeah, Joe.
The two places I was first, I was asking about actually creating policy with AI, but the other thing I could think of would be testing. I'm just trying to think of other use cases for AI in the product and ways that we could make it more AI. Actually put AI instead of just in the name, but actually put it in the product.
Yeah, that's a different angle for sure. Using AI as part of the product, and we have other initiatives for this. AI Gateway is really about putting a gateway in front of AI, and there's for sure uses of AI in the product itself, and basically use of AI. Not just creating the product, but also that is made available to customers. So getting insights about maybe your API configuration across different gateways or about your traffic and things like that. So we have another initiative looking into that, and maybe that's going to be the subject of a future office hour. And we consider that to be a separate initiative than the AI Gateway initiative.
Gotcha.
Oh, John Shannon. Let me click on this. No
He's
question.
just saying what a great job you did, Francois.
John, thanks for saying that. Hope you're doing well.
You're good. It's really cool. Thank you.
You're
Something welcome. We don't get to see in the public sector.
Awesome. Yeah, I bet.
Just Joe, on your conversation about testing, I know that the teams that have service virtualization and test data management, they are looking at how they can improve that testing journey with AI created data. So that's
I could just see, I could just see, like, for example, API gateway training itself on the traffic that moves through it, so that in your dev test environment you could, simulate the back end and make changes to policy, make the queries actually have it return a response using that data that it trained itself on previously, or something along those lines. So it could be part of the whole, especially for a portal user, you create your service, now you want to test it, and so you flip it into test mode, and it uses artificial data that the AI responds to the queries rather than a back end or a bunch of fake test data, as an example. I don't know, just something I kicking around in my head as you guys were talking.
That's great ideas. Oh, something else popped in the questions here. Derek Gore, cool stuff. Thanks for this. Thanks, Derek. All right.
I guess, Francois, we should ask Justin to call that a wrap. And
okay,
if anyone's got any questions afterwards, to reach out to us, and we'll be publishing the replay as soon as we get the chance.
All right.
Thanks, Francois.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Good stuff. Thanks. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.